Council, but I am not here. This is a personal opinion. This is not, as asked for, this is not an opinion of the City Council. So I was asked, what would arts and culture look like in 2065 in Cambridge? And I found there were two fundamental problems with this from the beginning. Looking forward 50 years in a city which has recently celebrated the 800th anniversary of the university is an interesting challenge. So much of what Cambridge is about is rooted in that long history, and 50 years isn't a particularly long time. I came here nearly 30 years ago as a student, and very little of the architecture has changed. Most of the city centre looks remarkably similar to what it did when I first came here. Similarly, speculating on the future of arts and recreation is a similarly intriguing thing. We can't know what arts and culture will look like in 50 years' time, because that's in the nature of what arts and culture is. It's the way we communicate with each other. It's the way we understand our world. And if you said now what it will look like in 50 years' time, we cut off that very importance of arts and culture to allow that kind of communication. But given that it's unknowable as to what that creativity will look like exactly, what we do know is it will be a part of it. It will be a crucial part of that future. I don't know if anyone saw the memorial for Richard Attenborough, but David Attenborough quoted his speech that he made in the House of Lords in 1994 about arts being at the essence of what we are. It's how we challenge the world. It's really well worth a read if you have a moment. So what about that? What does it look like in 2065? So as I've said, in some things, in 2065, some things are just exactly the same as they are now. People still want to come together, and not just virtually, they want to come together for big civic and community cultural moments. Your Cambridge Carnival. New forms of transmission of culture are ubiquitous, but they haven't replaced that very human desire to gather together in real time, in real places, to spend moments of joyful moments together in a community. And much about the historic city centre hasn't changed. Those buildings which have been there for hundreds of years are still standing, and many of them have still got the same uses. Our museums, our venues, our open spaces, which were unique in their scope for a city of the size of Cambridge in 2015, are still present. And city centre spaces are still continuing to provide the balance of events and open space for those residences. There have been changes. Advances in technology mean that our streets have been released from being a route for cars, and they've returned to that informal cultural space, that informal opportunity for people to just get together. Our streets, Mill Road Winter Fair has become something that happens across the whole city. The streets are there for those big cultural moments rather than just to move cars from one place to another. But by 2065, the historic core no longer has the scale to cope, to provide sufficient cultural space for the city to come together. In 2015, Midsummer Common can accommodate 25,000 people. Parker's Piece can take 15,000, Cherry Hinton Hall 10. Our city is going to be at least 50% bigger, so we're going to need bigger spaces. If we just expand the city, we didn't want to let our city just expand around that city centre and with housing, rather than thinking about our cultural and our urban spaces. And a strong collaborative approach to planning that started with the City deal in 2015 meant, rather than following a historic model that cities have of going, this is our historic city centre, this is the important bit, this is the bit we look after, and then we just put houses around the outside. What Cambridge did was unique. It took its tradition of urban green space and high quality architecture and expanded it outwards. It provided multiple locations with high quality outdoor and indoor civic spaces. And the quality of the arts, the quality of the recreational activity experienced in the city centre, in that historic core, is matched, it's surpassed by what can happen in these new and exciting spaces around what were the edges of our city. Venues with the scale and infrastructure appropriate for this new expanded city have been planned into the growth, and we've got dedicated spaces in which our new expanded population can come together. We've dealt with things like waste and water so that people can come together and be creative about whatever it is that they want to be creative about. But we've made sure that there are places for them to do that. So rather than recreating yet another overstretched, once beautiful city centre surrounded by suburbia, Cambridge took that opportunity to breathe outwards and take its remarkable and ancient urban green landscape with it, and the very high quality of life associated with Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire has been maintained and developed, and we have a recreational and cultural match to our continuing intellectual and economic growth.